1998. In the summer of 1998, the San Bernardino Mountains were a completely different world. We didn't have glowing screens in our pockets or digital maps to guide us through the dark. We relied solely on our senses and the heavy silence that stretched for miles between the towering peaks. I was 19 years old, working at a secluded summer camp situated 1,800 meters above sea level, where the air is so thin you can feel your chest tighten at the mere thought of danger. It was around 8 p.m. at a spot we called the launch. The sky was bruised with a somber purple hue before being swallowed by an absolute pitch black void. I was with my friend Omar, who was struggling against the wind to fold the massive wing of his paraglider. In those days, paragliding was a sport for daredevils who didn't fear death. But that night, death was walking on two legs. Out of the dense, shadowy manzanita bushes, a man suddenly emerged. He didn't come from the paved dirt road. He stepped out from a trackless part of the forest. He was wearing a light blue summer suit, perfectly pressed in a way that didn't belong in the rugged mountains, and his hair was slicked back with a shine that caught the pale moonlight. Behind him, he led a small dog that was shivering uncontrollably, as if it could smell something our eyes couldn't see. Omar called out in a calm tone, trying to break the tension. "Good evening. Did your car break down, sir?" The man stopped abruptly. His eyes were bulging, unblinking. He began to mutter words at an incredible speed, like a tape recorder played at double time. I couldn't understand a thing until he leaned in so close that I caught a strange scent, not drugs or alcohol, but sharp, chemical odor resembling formaldehyde. He suddenly shrieked in a piercing voice that shattered the stillness. "Do you know what lies beneath this dirt? The corpses of idiots like you. I'm going to burn this forest until it turns into ash that covers your ugly faces." My friend Sammy tried to step in to calm him down, but the man, whom we later learned was named Mansour, began to laugh with a jagged, terrifying cackle. He leaned into Sammy's ear and whispered, "I love chemistry. I love seeing how your bodies react when I leave a gift in your drinks. I want to see your eyes explode with terror." He then began hurling vile, derogatory slurs at our special needs campers. Since my younger brother is on the autism spectrum, I felt my blood pressure spike. I asked him sternly, "Who are you and what do you want?" He replied with a lethal coldness, "My name is Mansour. I lived on this mountain before you were born, and I'll be here long after you're gone." He turned suddenly, climbed into an old Cadillac, and roared off toward the camp entrance, only to speed back past us a few minutes later and vanish into the thick fog. The black hours in cabin 4. By midnight, I was completely alone in cabin 4. The camp was deserted that week except for me and two Dyer, tours staying in the infirmary building about 90 meters away. I had nothing but an old pager and a battered walkie-talkie that barely worked amidst the thick trees. I entered the cabin and dropped the heavy iron locking bar behind the door. I went to the bathroom at the end of a long, dark hallway to wash my face. As I leaned over the sink, I heard the sound that still echoes in my nightmares today. Clack, clack, Seerik. The sound of the iron bar being slowly lifted from the outside. The massive door, weighing hundreds of pounds, opened with a metallic groan that tore through the night silence. I froze, cold water dripping from my face. Then the footsteps began. Thud, thud, thud. They were heavy, deliberate steps. Not like someone walking naturally, but like someone dragging their feet on purpose to create a terrifying noise. The steps approached in the hallway, passing room after room, until they stopped directly behind the bathroom door. From under the door, I saw the shadow of a polished shoe beneath the dim light. He didn't knock. He didn't speak. I only heard a long, deep inhale, as if he were smelling my fear through the wood. I screamed at the top of my lungs, "I have a weapon! Get out of here now!" A 5-second silence followed. Then I heard the footsteps retreat slowly, and the main door closed with a haunting softness. I ran to my room and threw myself onto the bed, which faced the window. The window was protected only by a thin wire mesh. As I tried to catch my breath, I heard the sound again, this time from behind me. A sharp crunching on the dry leaves directly behind my head. I realized then that the only thing between me and death was a thin pane of glass. Someone was standing behind the window, watching the back of my head in the dark. I heard an unintelligible whisper, then the sound of warm, human breath hitting the glass, leaving a faint fog on the pane. I slid off the bed and crawled underneath it, my heart pounding like a war drum. Suddenly, the silence turned into absolute hell. Someone began kicking the main door with all their might. It wasn't a knock. It was a violent assault that shook the entire wooden cabin. With every kick, I heard a metallic scratching sound, as if claws or a knife were tearing at the door up and down. I crawled toward the walkie-talkie and tried to contact the directors. Help! Someone is trying to break into cabin 4. Please help me. A distorted, flickering voice came back. Joey, we're static. Doors are locked. We can't. Static. The attack lasted for 10 full minutes that felt like an eternity. Then everything suddenly stopped. A strange silence followed, even more terrifying than the noise itself. When the directors arrived 30 minutes later with shotguns and powerful flashlights, they found the metal door covered in deep, savage vertical gouges, as if someone had used a sharp tool to write a silent message of hate. Behind my bedroom window, we found deep footprints pressed into the mud, and they were all facing inward, as if Mansour had been standing there for hours, silently watching me while I slept before I even woke up. Since that summer in 1998, I have never returned to those heights. Mansour may be gone, or perhaps he is still there, wearing his elegant suit and his twisted smile, waiting for another victim in the silence of the San Bernardino Mountains, where no one can hear you scream behind the iron bars.